The Reaper, the dreaded weapon of a true vampire, and in V Rising, one you don't acquire until mid-game. It excels at area denial, chip damage, and controlling a fight. But how can you tap into its true potential through builds? Hey there friends, it's Codiak here, welcome back to Legacy Gaming. Today, we're breaking down some real deal Reaper builds, showcasing how you can make the most of this potent weapon as soon as you unlock it. When it comes to V Rising, not all weapons are created equal, and most directly influence your playstyle and which abilities you should be picking up. For that reason, we wanted to go over the Reaper today. You'll unlock this weapon as soon as you beat Quincy the Bandit King, granting you access to the smithy and iron. You can also unlock the special General Soul Reaper by defeating an undead commander and getting him to drop a special recipe. One is located roaming the Iron Mine, and another resides in the Church of the Damned. I'd highly recommend hunting down this recipe as soon as possible for any Reaper build, as it's the only weapon currently in the game at the time of making this video that gives you additional spell power and spell critical strike chance. Now let's talk about Reaper playstyle. Because it's on the harder hitting side of physical damage, you can be more in the fighting mindset. Your abilities with this weapon are great at pushing enemies away. You can also apply fading snares and deal AoE damage over time, which makes it perfect for holding your ground or blocking off an escape route. It's also great at doing chip damage to bosses in PVE while keeping summoned units away from you. It's not all good though. You won't find yourself chasing down enemies with this weapon, it just doesn't have any gap closing capabilities, so expect to build accordingly around this flaw. Your basic attack is slightly slower than most other weapons in the game, which isn't a huge factor in quick skirmishes, but is noticeable if trying to do sustained damage to a target over time. Your Q, called Tendon Swing, has a 0.2 second cast time on an 8-second cooldown that has you spin around swinging your Reaper in an AoE and dealing 125% of your physical damage to all targets around you. Additionally, this applies a knockback and a 2-second fading snare, meaning enemies get heavily slowed at impact, but the effect gradually reduces over the course of 2 seconds. Your other ability, your E, allows you to throw out your Reaper a good distance and spin in the target location, dealing 20% of your physical damage every 0.25 seconds for 2.5 seconds. Additionally, if you hit your target with the initial hit of the cast, they'll be slowed for 1.5 seconds. Combining these two skills can be extremely effective in keeping enemies off you in PvP while dealing good chunks of chip damage. Your E can be an effective tool to catch players for your teammates if you're close enough, or you can knock back players into your own abilities and teammates with your Q. You can even use your slows and snares on these abilities to help you line up skill shots or AoEs more effectively. Now with all that in mind, let's move on to what you're really here for, the builds. Let's start with something that should benefit new players long term, a build to rock as soon as you unlock the Reaper. You're going to want to use the General Soul Reaper because of those additional stats we mentioned before, which boosts all of your spells. The recipe is also pretty easy to obtain even before you hit Iron Tier. For your accessory, it's all about the Frozen Eye Ring, as it provides 12% additional spell critical strike chance. You'll also want to feed on the highest Scholar Blood you can find at this point to boost your spell damage and give your spells lifesteal. Brute Blood is another option, which is decent for PvE farming, as this kit allows you to burst enemies quickly and keep up a rapid succession of hits, equaling heals. For the travel skill, take Veil of Bones, acquired from defeating Goreswine the Ravager. This gives you a ranged projectile out of your dash that bounces up to 4 total targets and amps the damage they take by 25% for a whopping 5 seconds. Seeing as this has an 8-second cooldown, you're looking at only 2 or 3 seconds of downtime on the damage amp. For your first ability, let's take Crimson Aegis, acquired by defeating Grayson the Armorer. This plays extremely well into our control kit by not only applying a shield equivalent to 200% of your spell power, but it can also be cast on allies and provides knockback utility. You can also use this to absorb burn damage, save a teammate from damage, and even knock opponents away from a teammate. It's great for both solo and teams, and in both PvE and PvP. Last up, toss in probably the best offensive ability in the game, Chaos Volley, acquired from Lydia the Chaos Archer. This gives you 2 projectiles on a 7-second cooldown that deal 125% of your magic damage and inflict a ticking burn on hit. It's a solid skill that you get early on, which will scale indefinitely as you progress. In terms of your ultimate, you really only have one option early on, Merciless Charge, and that's also from defeating Quincy the Bandit King, the gateway to the Reaper itself. Honestly, this isn't a bad ultimate for the build. It gives you extra mobility, which you're severely lacking, scales well off your spell power, and most importantly, gives you a 1.5 second stun, allowing you to set up either of your weapon skills on a target, followed by easily landing your Chaos Volley and huge damage. This particular build will provide you a solid foundation for success from the mid-game into the late game. And don't forget, the Reaper also grants you a 25% damage bonus to undead units, and since you'll be farming the Cursed Forest and various graveyards for essential materials, this is a strong added bonus. These next 2 builds are endgame focused, giving you something to work towards. All weapons will be in their endgame form, so expect to be building into the highest tier weapons available. Here again, the goal is to lean into spell power and focus on controlling the fights and mitigating damage to ourselves and teammates as best as possible. Here again, we recommend taking Scholar Blood, which pairs nicely with our focus on spell power. For jewelry, if you've beaten Solaris, you can opt to take the Blood Key, since it's almost a 7% spell power increase on your spells. That being said, we still prefer to use Shard of the Frozen Crypt because it provides 15% spell critical strike chance, 20% spell critical strike damage, and a 10% cooldown reduction on all abilities. For the travel skill, take Veil of Frost, which you get from Vincent the Frostbringer. This gives a 25% damage bonus when attacking directly after triggering the ability, and also spawns a Frost Nova, which deals 50% magic damage in an AoE and applies Chill. The most important thing here is the 125% spell power shield you get when casting the ability. You can use this to soak up burn damage or even negate an entire attack you know you can't entirely evade. It also gives you a strong leg up when aggressively engaging a target, since you start with a shield that you can afford to lose. For the first ability, we'd recommend Power Surge, acquired from killing Azariel the Sunbringer. This, in my opinion, is the best shield in the game. It gives you a purge to remove burns, slows, and more, a shield that scales to 150% of your spell power, increases your movement speed by 25%, and finally your attack speed by 25%. You can even cast this on teammates for the exact same effect. There's literally nothing bad about this ability and lets you fight more while keeping your effective HP pool high when playing around this skill. Also, because we're using Scholar Blood, casting this skill has a chance to free cast and immediately let you use it again. For the last ability, here again, we're talking about Chaos Volley. We already explained why this ability stands out in the early build, but it's even better during the late game when playing into Spell Amp and Spell Crit. Landing both projectiles on targets will, in most cases, see your PvP enemies disengage or PvE enemies just disintegrate. For the ultimate skills, we have 2 options. Both are flexible to provide a different set of skills dependent on your scenario and playstyle. If you want to be more aggressive in your fights, Arctic Leap, acquired by defeating Terrorclaw the Ogre, is your best bet. This gives you an insane gap close that results in a massive AoE of Frost that deals 225% of your magic damage to all in the area. Additionally, it freezes PvE enemies for 6 seconds and freezes vampires for a massive 3 seconds. Now, just a word of warning for Frost: if you are trying to really control a fight with freeze effects, as soon as the target takes another source of damage while frozen, they'll unfreeze. So it's important to pick your targets wisely if there are multiple and coordinate with teammates if in a group. If you're more on the defensive side or in close quarters, Frost Vortex, acquired from killing the Winged Horror, will suit you extremely well. This AoE occupies a huge space, pulling enemies towards the center and dealing 480% magic damage for 6 seconds, all the while inflicting chill. Because we're rocking the Veil of Frost travel skill, any enemy that gets affected by chill can quickly become frozen by following up with a dash attack for a burst of damage and CC. In summary, this is a devastating build in both PvE and PvP, and Livid's current go-to in pretty much every scenario, but just because we know our viewers like options, let's give you one more build to chew on. This last build is a bit more physical for those players that prefer a more direct playstyle. Here we'll be playing into physical damage and focusing on keeping both ourselves and teammates in fighting condition as often as possible. As a result, we opt for Warrior Blood in PvP for the sweet chance to negate damage on hit and bonus damage at full health. You could also go for Brute Blood in most PvE situations where numerous enemies will be involved to keep the healing up and keep you alive. For accessories, check out the Nightstone of the Beast. This gives 15% physical critical strike chance, 20% physical critical strike damage and 10% physical resistance. For the travel skill, consider taking Veil of Bones, acquired from defeating Goreswine the Ravager. This gives you a ranged projectile out of your dash that bounces up to 4 total targets and amps the damage those targets take by 25% for 5 seconds. Seeing as this has an 8-second cooldown, again, you're looking at a 2 to 3 second downtime on the damage amp, allowing you to really take advantage of your physical attacks. For your Q and E abilities, there are 2 sets of options. Each one fills the same role in those slots, but serves different playstyles. The first possible combo is Crimson Aegis, acquired from Grayson the Armorer, and Sanguine Coil, obtained from Meredith the Bright Archer. Crimson Aegis, as we explained earlier, just gives us a massive tanky shield for ourselves or teammates and gives knockback utility. Sanguine Coil, on the other hand, allows you to fire off 3 projectiles that either heal for 40% of the damage to a target, or heal a teammate for 100% of the damage and yourself for 40% when hitting that teammate with the spell. It's an all-around great ability provided you land the skill shots. The second possible combo is Power Surge, as mentioned earlier, and Purgatory, acquired from defeating Christina the Sun Priestess. We went over how crazy Power Surge is in the previous build, but as a quick reminder, it gives you or a teammate a Purge, a Shield, move speed, and attack speed. Purgatory, on the other hand, is damage, a heal, and a slow, all wrapped into one neat AoE package. The initial AoE cast heals for 40% and slows, while the resulting explosion then deals 75% magic damage and heals for 75% of your spell power. This lets you sit on top of your enemies with your team and just go to town. Last up, the ultimate. While Arctic Leap is probably the most meta ultimate in the game, we also very much like and prefer Heart Strike in this instance, acquired from defeating Wilfred the Werewolf Chief. This gives you an insanely long dash attack, great for engaging or disengaging from a fight. Any target you hit along the way will take damage equal to 150% of your spell power over 3 seconds, while also healing you for that same amount over that time. When it finishes, all targets affected will explode, dealing the same amount of damage in an AoE around them. If they're on top of each other when the effect goes off, expect to watch more than half their health just vanish. Truth be told, this build is just as menacing as the Control build, but like we said, fits a different playstyle. And as always, our goal is to provide you guys with different options. I hope now you can understand and appreciate the Reaper and some of the builds that you can utilize to great effect within V Rising. Of course, there are many other options out there and likely more to come, so play what works best for you. However, if you like these builds and want to show your support, we need your help. Hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. It's still the single best way to help channels like ours reach new audiences. If you're interested in joining our V Rising private server, consider joining us on Discord. We've got a small PvP server with 2x resources set up for anyone to use. Just check out the link below and join today. Finally, if you like everything we're doing here at Legacy Gaming and you want to support us even more, consider becoming a member. For just a few bucks, you're helping Livid and I achieve our dreams of becoming full-time content creators. Check out that join button below to learn more. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.